Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Lights Out, your virtual campfire. I'm your hostess with the mostest ghosties, Sylvia Shults. It's time for another visit to the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult, hosted by the dynamic duo of Greg and Dana Newkirk. Let's see what the professional weirdos have on their table this time as we go Lights Out.
All right, I am super excited here because it is my second time seeing the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult. This is great. I'm here with Greg and Dana, and we are going to talk about new haunted stuff. So, yeah, what have you got that's new, Greg?
Well, let's see. The Fetid Face is brand new.
I was just looking at that. I was like, say Fetid Face, say Fetid Face.
Most things people send us, they give us a kind of a heads up.
Okay.
It's pretty stunning. When you see it, it draws your attention. It's got quite an interesting expression.
Yeah.
This one, unlike most objects, most of the time people will give us a heads up. And they'll send us an email and say, I've got something I want to send you. So we give them specific instructions on how to send it and what we'd like them to jot down and save for us so we can have as much detail as possible. This one arrived with no heads up, showed up in the post office box. No postmark. The only postmark was from Florida. There was no return address.
Oh my!
We opened it up, and on top was a note that said, "I'm sorry." And the mask was covered in human feces.
Oh!
I told Dana before I even saw the mask. I said, "Somebody did it. They finally sent us a turd. Somebody finally sent us a turd." But the mask was just covered in poop, and we didn't really know what to make of it. It's got some strange symbols on the back of it.
Yeah.
We cleaned it up really good. We now wear gloves to open everything.
No doubt.
That was a lesson. But after we cleaned it up really good, we started to notice that people can't wear it for very long. So when they do, they usually describe the feeling of being popped out of their body, which is a little concerning.
Yeah.
The longest anyone's worn it was for 26 minutes.
Wow.
He laid on a couch, frankly, because we forgot he was doing it. He laid on a couch behind us. 26 minutes in, he leapt off the couch, ripped the mask off his face, and screamed, "I left my effing body." And then he projectile vomited.
Oh, my goodness.
So I don't know if it was because this was used to induce some kind of out-of-body experience or maybe a trance state.
Yeah.
But we're still figuring it out. We're still learning about it. Because we have no real history or details.
Do you tell people about the poop before they put the mask on?
Of course. It doesn't deter them. And so far, nobody's gotten pink eye, so we must have done a fairly decent job cleaning it.
Right on. Very, very cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So tell me about the drum, the conjuring drum.
The conjuring drum is one of the very few things we don't let people handle, mostly because it's a drum and people feel compelled to play it. Things don't typically go well when people play that drum. That actually was given to us by our friend and fellow investigator, John Tenney. He got it from a magic shop. It was abandoned by a fairly prominent voodoo practicing family in Detroit. It's their second drum, and their first one they wrapped in chains and sunk to the bottom of the Detroit River.
Oh my!
They would use it to summon Loa, which are voodoo spirits. And eventually one of them started to show up that they weren't inviting. They called him Criminal, the arm twister. And when it started to happen again with the second drum, they said, "I'm out, enough of that," and they abandoned it. And because Tenney knew the family and because he was in that shop all the time, they gave it to him. After he heard it play in his own home by itself a few times, he's like, "You know what, I'm going to give this to my friends." So he gave it to us. We have heard it play. We've actually heard it play. It'll be in a completely opposite room, and we'll be sitting there watching TV, and we'll hear it play right between the two of us. It's just a do-do-do. And so yeah, that one, we don't really want to meet Criminal, so we don't let people play it.
No kidding. So how did it get from the bottom of the river to...
Oh, that's the second drum. The first one's still at the bottom of the river.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is their second drum because they just figured, well, what's the sense in throwing it into the river? It's just going to keep happening. So,
okay. Wow.
So they left it for someone else to deal with.
How wonderful.
Right.
Goodness.
We hear that sort of phrase a lot. It's your problem now.
Cool.
Experiment.
Who was helping her friends flip a house.
Uh-huh.
And he was in a box in a basement. The house had been abandoned for a couple of years, and they were going to just sort of refurb it and sell it. And so behind him, there's a weird painting of a clown. He was wrapped in that.
Oh.
In the box with a bunch of other things that were wrapped in similar style. She took this one home and instantly started having, her sleep was being disrupted. She would sleep for extended periods of time and didn't feel like she was sleeping at all.
Oh, wow.
She was also hearing like a popping. She described it as cracking. I've heard it. It's more of like a popping sound to me. But again, depends. So she was hearing a sound that sounded like cracking that was happening all over her apartment. She had someone come in and check like ducts to see if it was like the house, like whatever. It was driving her crazy, basically.
Yeah.
And it all kind of boiled over when she woke up in the middle of the night, and there was a full-bodied apparition of a man who was standing next to her bed. He was kind of like just standing there looking at her. And she described his hands and his wrists were very twisted, as if he had like extreme arthritis. And that sound, she said, was the like bones. That's that crack. It sounds to me, because so when she donated it to the museum, we, again, crazy stories. So sometimes when we get stories that are a little bit more elaborate, a little bit kind of horror movie-ish, we tend to be we're pretty, we come at everything with a level head. So we were like, there's probably not going to be all that much associated with him as far as the paranormal goes. Instantly, we started hearing the sound all throughout our house.
Wow.
And it seemed intelligent because every time I would follow it, I would hear it in another place. So I would go into the kitchen, I'd hear it in the living room, hear it in the living room, hear it in the bedroom. So it was kind of like toying with us a little bit.
Oh my.
And I would try to record it, and every time I would try to record it, it would stop. I turned the recorder off, it would start again. So I actually recorded it with my phone, pretending I was just scrolling through my phone. So there was an intelligence who's like very aware of the situation it's in.
Oh, nice.
And Greg's sleep pattern started getting weird. So he's actually one of the objects that we don't normally keep in the home because he's kind of annoying. Like, as funny as that sounds, it's just like kind of it's creepy and tricky and like trickstery kind of.
Ooh.
And it seems aware of the environment, and so yeah, we keep him elsewhere. But some friends of ours have tried experiments with him. A friend of ours who we kind of like call the guinea pig. One of the things that she does is when we receive a new item, she'll always sleep with it in the room with her.
Oh my.
Every single one of them, she's pretty much slept in the room with. And the night that she slept with the cracking man in her room, her audio recorder turned off on its own. And it wasn't like the battery died. It manually, someone pressed it and turned it off.
Wow.
So again, that idea of that sound, that popping sound, to me it sounds like someone cracking their knuckles. Like it's like a do-do-do sound, and it's really just agitating. So I don't know. I mean, we've had it for 6 months, and we have done some work with him, and he just kind of seems like he's just messing with people for the sake of messing with people. So maybe we'll break through at some point and figure out what was attached and why. I mean, the other thing is you kind of have to get down low to see it, but there's some creepy details. So he has a prayer pin.
Oh yeah.
His boots are bagged. We traced the actual clown back to, I think it was the mid-70s. He was a reproduced just collector's clown. Huh. And so we kind of know like where he came from, like all that kind of stuff. But there are weird little details of why was he wrapped in a painting of himself, and also the other objects that were in the box. She said were wrapped in a similar style in like muslin, or some of them were wrapped in like this, like, you know what I mean, like just kind of like table covers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But they were wrapped in a similar style, and the rest of them, they were like, one of them was a trophy, like a baseball, I think it was a bowling trophy. Just random things, and they were all donated to the Goodwill. So hopefully those don't have attachments to them like he does.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the cracking one.
Huh. Interesting. Thank you.
Of course.
This is a description of Simon. It says, donor wishes to remain anonymous. Purchased at a yard sale in rural Indiana, Simon was once the beloved doll of a 5-year-old boy until the child began to complain of physical abuse by the doll. The previous owners believe that Simon is responsible for broken dishes, running faucets, mysterious messes, and other mischief. But when the young boy's mother discovered a hoard of kitchen knives hidden under her son's bed, the child blamed Simon, and the doll was quickly discarded. Simon has been known to rock back and forth in his rocking chair by his own accord, and initial EVP sessions have shown that the doll may have a mean streak. Research with Simon is ongoing. Yeah.
Smiley was found at a thrift store. A couple college students from Miami University thought it was just hideous, so of course they wanted to put it on their wall.
Of course.
Shortly after, it is hideous. Shortly after, they began to realize they were all experiencing sleep paralysis for the first time.
Whoa.
And then eventually they started to notice that during these sleep paralysis events, there was an entity in the room with them, and it had eyes that reflected like a dog's eyes at night. And by the point that it started to crawl up on their beds during these episodes, they'd all freaked out and eventually started talking about these. And when they realized they were all having it happen, they blamed it on the crochet of the clown and decided to get rid of it. So they Googled haunted doll, what do I do with a haunted doll? And they found Ruby, and they eventually got in touch with us, so we picked it up.
Cool.
No strange episodes with it for us yet, so who knows? Maybe it's not the right item. Maybe it's something else. Oh, the older they are.
Don't forget, you can visit the museum anytime you like, 24/7, on either of their websites, paramuseum.com or weirdhq.com. You can also follow them on Facebook or support them on Patreon at patreon.com/paramuseum. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, find others like it at Podcast Central on Facebook, your home for the best in paranormal, cryptid, and supernatural podcasting. The next few episodes of Lights Out will be kind of special. We've got a couple of fun Christmas-themed shows coming up, and the very next episode will mark a milestone, the 50th episode of the show. I've got a treat for you to celebrate the next time we go Lights Out.